The crowd was already trembling with excitement, the air electric, the lights flashing in sync with the thundering heartbeat of 22,000 souls packed inside Chicago's United Center. It was March 7, 1992, opening night of Michael Jackson's Dangerous World Tour. The floor itself seemed alive, vibrating with the chants of fans who had waited years to see the king of pop return to the stage. Then, as the first notes of Billie Jean echoed through the stadium, the world stopped breathing. Michael glided forward, his silhouette cutting through the blinding white spotlight. The sequins on his jacket shimmered like stars, the single white glove catching beams of light with every movement. Every eye was fixed on him, until he appeared in the VIP box, cloaked in deep purple velvet, wearing round sunglasses and a quiet, knowing smile, sat Prince. His arrival wasn't announced. No cameras followed him. But somehow, every person nearby felt the shift, the tremor of history in motion. When Michael's eyes found him mid-moonwalk, something flickered across his face. Shock. Challenge. Then, silence. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss another untold story. What happened that night would become one of the most mysterious and electrifying moments in music history. For over a decade, the world had whispered about the rivalry between Michael Jackson and Prince, two of the most creative forces to ever walk a stage. But no one could have predicted that their feud would reach its climax here, in front of 22,000 witnesses, during what was supposed to be a flawless, scripted opening show. When Michael stopped mid-performance, time froze. His band looked at him, confused. The dancers froze in position. The crowd didn't know whether it was part of the act or a technical issue. But Michael stood motionless, staring into the VIP section. Slowly, he raised his gloved hand and pointed, not accusingly, not angrily, but like a man acknowledging a rival king. The spotlight followed his gaze, and suddenly, the crowd saw him. Prince. Sitting calmly. Slow clapping. The sound of his hands echoed through the silent arena, soft, deliberate, almost mocking. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some screamed. Others fell completely silent. For the first time in his career, Michael Jackson, the perfectionist, the untouchable performer, had stopped the music, and then, without warning, he spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady but charged with emotion, "we have a very special guest tonight." No one expected what came next. The story of that night begins long before that fateful March evening. To understand what really happened, you have to go back to the roots of a rivalry that defined a generation. Michael Jackson and Prince, two men born of the same musical era, two geniuses sculpting sound itself into something spiritual, had been circling each other for years, like comets destined to collide. In 1983, Thriller ruled the planet. Michael was unstoppable, the biggest pop star the world had ever seen. But in the smoky clubs of Minneapolis, Prince was building something different. His music was raw, sensual, unpredictable. Where Michael sought perfection, Prince embraced chaos. Where Michael reached for unity, Prince thrived in rebellion. And when they first met, it wasn't camaraderie they felt. It was tension, an electric awareness that only one of them could wear the crown. They respected each other's talent deeply, but there was competition in every glance, every interview, every whisper in the press. When Michael invited Prince to collaborate on Bad, Prince declined, famously saying, "You don't need me on the song. You're going to sing, Your But Is Mine, to me. No one's saying that to me." The rivalry wasn't violent, but it was sharp, artistic, almost chess-like. Both men were masters of their craft, both obsessed with control, and both understood how much the world loved to compare them. But by 1992, that quiet tension had become something bigger. Prince had given a radio interview just 3 days before the Chicago concert, saying with a sly grin, "Maybe I should show Chicago what real music sounds like." It was a playful jab, but Michael heard it. And he didn't forget that. That's why, when Michael saw Prince that night, the look on his face wasn't just surprise, it was realization. The showdown had arrived. For almost a full minute, the crowd waited in confusion. Then Michael smiled, small at first, then wider. He tilted his hat, turned to his band, and simply said, "Let's give him something to clap about." The bass dropped. Billie Jean restarted, but it wasn't the usual version. Michael changed the tempo, driving it harder, funkier, with an edge that hadn't been heard before. His moves grew sharper, more defiant. Every spin, every toe stand was a challenge thrown across the stage, straight toward the man in purple. The cameras zoomed in on Michael, but everyone's eyes darted back and forth between him and Prince. Two gods of music, locked in silent communication across a sea of screaming fans. Prince didn't flinch. He watched, head slightly tilted, clapping in rhythm now, almost approvingly. Then, as Michael hit the final pose, frozen in mid-air light, the crowd erupting, Prince stood up and walked out of the VIP box. The arena's noise collapsed into chaos. Security shifted nervously. Michael's band kept playing, but every head turned as Prince made his way down the aisle, his velvet suit flowing like royal armor. Michael, sweat dripping, chest heaving, stared in disbelief as Prince approached the edge of the stage. What happened next wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't planned. But it was destined. Prince grabbed a spare guitar from a nearby tech, a gleaming white Stratocaster, and, without asking, plugged it in. Michael stepped back, microphone in hand, eyes locked. The crowd was beyond comprehension now, caught between screaming and praying. Then, Prince strummed a single chord. It cut through the air like lightning. Michael smiled. The battle had begun. For nearly 10 minutes, the two traded riffs and rhythms, Michael dancing, improvising every beat, while Prince matched him note for note, twisting melodies that bled into funk, blues, and rock. It wasn't hostility anymore. It was art, raw, unfiltered, transcendent. Two titans pushing each other higher, further, freer. People in the crowd later said they couldn't tell where competition ended and collaboration began. When Michael spun into a rapid fire of footwork, Prince responded with a screaming guitar solo that seemed to laugh and cry at once. When Michael fell to his knees, Prince leaned forward, eyes burning, as if to say, "Is that all you've got?" Then, something unexpected happened. The tempo softened. The lights dimmed. Michael motioned to his band to slow down. And from the hush, a familiar chord rose, the opening of Purple Rain. Prince looked shocked. Michael smiled again, this time with warmth. He extended his hand. For a long second, Prince didn't move. Then, slowly, he stepped forward, took Michael's hand, and climbed the stage. The audience screamed, not from excitement this time, but from sheer disbelief. Two men who had spent a decade being painted as rivals stood together, bathed in violet light. Michael lifted the microphone. "This is your song, brother," he said softly. Prince took it. The first note of Purple Rain filled the arena, and Michael harmonized. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was real. Prince's voice broke slightly. Michael's eyes glistened. The music swelled like a wave, carrying with it years of tension, pride, and unspoken admiration. By the time the song ended, 22,000 people were on their feet, many of them crying. Prince and Michael stood side by side, breathing heavily, their hands clasped together. Michael turned to him and said, almost inaudibly, "No more rivalry." Prince nodded. "Just music." The crowd exploded again, and the two men embraced, a long, emotional hug that seemed to seal not only their friendship but an entire era of music. In the days that followed, the story spread like wildfire. Newspapers tried to confirm it. Reporters chased quotes. But neither man ever spoke publicly about what happened that night. No official footage was ever released. Some claimed the cameras were turned off during the moment. Others believed Prince had requested it to stay off the record, saying, "Not everything sacred should be seen." But those who were there never forgot. They described it as spiritual, like witnessing two galaxies collide and merge into one light. The rivalry that once divided them had become a bridge, built from respect and shared genius. Behind the scenes, something changed after that night. Prince sent Michael a handwritten note weeks later. It said only 3 words, "No more walls." Michael kept it framed in his Neverland studio. In the months that followed, fans began to notice subtle tributes, a funkier groove in Michael's live arrangements, a softer tone in Prince's interviews when asked about the King of Pop. The tension was gone, replaced by mutual reverence. They had finally found peace, not through words, but through music. Looking back now, that moment in Chicago feels like more than just a concert. It was the closing of a chapter, the resolution of a story that defined the spirit of the 1980s and early 90s. Michael Jackson and Prince weren't just performers, they were mirrors of each other's greatness. Both sought perfection, both lived under unbearable pressure, both understood loneliness behind the spotlight. And on that night, beneath the roar of 22,000 voices, they finally saw themselves in each other. In one interview years later, a band member from the Dangerous tour quietly mentioned the event. Michael didn't like to talk about it, he said. But after that night, he told me, that's how music is supposed to feel, no fear, no walls, just truth. That was the real magic, not the rivalry, not the rumors, but the truth that art can heal even the deepest divides. If you listen carefully to Michael Jackson's live versions of Billie Jean after 1992, you can sometimes hear him add a faint guitar lick near the bridge, eerily similar to Prince's style. And during Prince's later shows, when he performed Purple Rain, he would occasionally glance up, smile, and say softly, "This one's for the king." They never performed together again, but they didn't have to. That night was enough, because what happened inside the United Center wasn't just a concert. It was reconciliation. It was history rewritten in real time. It was the night two kings shared one throne. As the lights faded that night, Michael stood alone on the stage after Prince had left, looking out at the crowd still chanting their names. He smiled faintly, then whispered into the mic, "That's what love sounds like." And with that, the King of Pop moonwalked backward into darkness, disappearing behind the curtain as the crowd's applause thundered through Chicago. No video. No encore. Just silence, and legend, and in that silence, history was born. Before you go, if you felt the power of this story, the music, the rivalry, the reconciliation, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this video. Every story we tell keeps the legacy of legends like Michael Jackson alive for a new generation. Because somewhere out there, another young dreamer is waiting to hear that anything is possible when art meets courage. This was the night Michael Jackson stopped the concert, and started something greater than fame, forgiveness.